Section 5. Ratifying the Constitution. Today, the Constitution of the United States is the object of unparalleled admiration and respect, both here and abroad. But in 1787 and 1788, it was widely criticized, and in every state there were many who opposed its adoption. The battle over the ratification of the document was not easily decided. The fight for ratification. Remember, the Articles of Confederation provided that changes could be made by them only if all of the state legislatures agreed, but the framers had determined that the new Constitution would replace, not amend, the Articles. They had seen how crippling the requirement of unanimity could be, so the new Constitution provided that the ratification of the conventions of the 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states, so ratifying the same. Article 7. The Congress of the Confederation agreed to this irregular procedure. On September 28, 1787, it sent copies of the new document to the states. Federalists and Anti-Federalists. The Constitution circulated widely and was debated vigorously. Two groups quickly emerged in each of the states: the Federalists, who favored ratification, and the Anti-Federalists, who opposed it. The Federalists were led by many of those who attended the Philadelphia Convention. Among the most active were James Madison and Alexander Hamilton. The opposition was headed by such well-known Revolutionary War figures such as Patrick Henry, Richard Henry Lee, John Hancock, and Samuel Adams. The Federalists stressed the weakness of the Articles. They argued that the many difficulties facing the Republic could be overcome only by the creation of new government based on the Constitution. The Anti-Federalists attacked nearly every part of the document. Many objected to the ratification process. Several worried that the presidency would become a monarchy and that Congress would become too powerful. In Massachusetts, Emil Singletary, a delegate to the ratification convention, condemned the Federalists. "These lawyers and men of learning and moneyed men that talk so finely and gloss over matters so smoothly to make us poor, illiterate people swallow down the pill, except to get into Congress themselves. They expect to get all the power and all the money into their own hands, and they will swallow up us little folks, just as the whale swallowed up Jonah." The lack of one major feature of the proposed Constitution drew the heaviest fire: a Bill of Rights. The new document did contain some protections of individual rights. For example, the provision for the writ of habeas corpus, which is a protection against arbitrary arrests. The framers had made no provision for such basic liberties as freedom of speech, press, and religion, however, largely because those matters were covered by the existing states' constitutions. They also believed that because the powers to be granted to the new government would be fragmented among 3 branches, no branch of the government could become powerful enough to threaten the rights of the people. Everywhere, the Anti-Federalists bore down on the absence of a Bill of Rights. At Virginia's ratifying convention, Patrick Henry said of the proposed Constitution, "I look on that paper as the most fatal plan that could possibly be conceived to enslave the free people." Stung by the criticism, the Federalists promised that the Constitution, once adopted, would be amended to overcome this fault. Over the course of the struggle of ratification, an extraordinary number of essays, speeches, letters, and other commentaries were printed. Of them all, the most remarkable were a series of 85 essays that first appeared in the various newspapers in New York in the fall of 1787 on into the spring of 1788. Those essays supporting the Constitution were written by Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. They were soon published in book form as The Federalists, a commentary on the Constitution of the United States. All the essays bore the pen name Publius, Latin for public man, and they were reprinted throughout the 13 states. They remain an excellent commentary on the Constitution and rank among the finest of all political writings in the English language. The Anti-Federalist attacks were also published widely. Among the best of their works were several essays, usually attributed to Robert Yates, who had been once New York's delegates to the Philadelphia Convention. They were signed as Brutus and appeared in the New York Journal at the same time that the paper carried several of the Federalist essays. The Anti-Federalist views were also presented in pamphlets and letters written by Richard Henry Lee of Virginia, who used the pen name The Federal Farmer. 9 states ratify. Ratification came fairly quickly in a few states and only after a bitter struggle in others. Delaware was the first to approve the Constitution on December 7. Pennsylvania followed 5 days later. In Pennsylvania, however, there where the legislature had been slowly to call a ratifying convention, several Federalists, angered by Anti-Federalist delays, took matters into their own hands. They broke into a Philadelphia boarding house, seized two legislators hiding there, and forcibly marched them to the State House so the Assembly could vote to schedule the convention. The contest for ratification was close in several states, but the Federalists finally prevailed in all of them. On June 21, 1788, New Hampshire brought the number of ratifying states to 9. Under Article 7, New Hampshire's ratification should have brought the Constitution into effect, but it did not. Neither Virginia nor New York had yet ratified. Without either of those key states, the government could not hope to succeed. Virginia's ratification. Virginia's vote for ratification followed New Hampshire by just 4 days. The brilliant debates in its convention were followed closely throughout the state. The Federalists were led by Madison, John Marshall, and Governor Edmund Randolph, even though he had refused to sign the Constitution at Philadelphia. Patrick Henry, leading the opposition, was joined by James Monroe, Richard Henry Lee, and George Mason, another of the non-signers. Although George Washington was not one of the delegates to Virginia's convention, his strong support for ratification proved vital. With Madison, he was able to get a reluctant Thomas Jefferson to support the document. Had Jefferson fought as did other Anti-Federalists, Virginia might never have ratified the Constitution. New York, the last key state. In New York, the ratifying convention was bitterly divided. The Anti-Federalists were led by Governor George Clinton and two of the state's 3 delegates to the Philadelphia Convention, Robert Yates and John Lansing, who had quit Philadelphia in late July, claiming that the convention had gone beyond its authority. New York's approval of the Constitution was absolutely necessary, for that large commercial state effectively separated New England from the rest of the nation. Its ratification of the Constitution on July 26 brought the number of ratifying states to 11. The victory there was largely won by Alexander Hamilton. Inauguration. On September 13, 1788, with 11 of the 13 states under the federal roof, the Congress of the Confederation paved the way for its successor. It chose New York City as the temporary capital. It set the first Wednesday in January as the date on which the states would choose presidential electors. The first Wednesday in February was set as the date on which those electors would vote, and the first Wednesday in March as the date for the inauguration of the new government. The new Congress convened on March 4, 1789. It met in Federal Hall on Wall Street in New York City, but because it lacked a quorum, it could not count the electoral votes until April 6. Finally, on that day, it found that George Washington had been elected president by unanimous vote. John Adams was elected vice president by a large majority. On April 30, after a historic trip from Mount Vernon to New York, Washington took the oath of office as the first president of the United States. Congratulations on making it to the end. I wish you the best on this assessment. I honestly have no idea how I'm supposed to study all this material, but it'll figure itself out. If I end up doing notes, I'll try to send it out to you guys. I recommend messaging me because I might forget, but yeah. Good luck. Bye-bye.